Hello, everyone. Welcome to watch Sister Chow's movie review. I am Sister Chow. Today, I will continue to bring you the early works of famous Korean director Kim Ki-duk, The Kitchen. At the beginning of the film, a beautiful woman picks up a turtle on the road that is easily hit by a car and returns it to the sea. This beautiful girl is named Jane and she is staying at Huey's house. On her way to Huey's home, she accidentally bumped into a girl on the road. The girl's gold turtle was knocked over and Jane rushed to pour the mineral water in her hand into the bag. The goldfish survived, but the girl left hurriedly without saying a word. Unlike her, Jean is a worldly woman who came to Huey's home to solicit business. She is the same age as her daughter Hui in the family. Hui is a college student and dresses very professionally. She hates physical contact very much. When her boyfriend wanted to kiss her, she quickly pushed him away. Hui looks down on the women of the world and has a bad attitude towards Jean. On the first night Jean arrived, she started receiving guests, but an unpleasant incident happened that day. Huey's mother didn't want to hear the sound of their business in the morning, but Jean couldn't refuse the request of the guests. When Jane went to wash up, Grace didn't even allow her to touch her things. But Grace's younger brother had a good impression of Jane and felt that his sister was being unreasonable. After attending a lecture at school, Grace went to have dinner with her boyfriend. He pushed away the boyfriend who was hugging her and said that this was another holiday. He said that they couldn't get married before. At this time, at home, Jane bought some fish and brought them back. He saw Huey's father painting on the wall and greeted him friendly, and drew a cute pattern on the wall before returning to his own room. Huey's father was attracted by Jane, so he went straight to Jane's room to experience the business at home for free. After finishing, he returned to painting on the wall. At this time, Huey came home and talked to his father. When he saw his father's expression, he realized what had happened. So, I don't want to eat with Jean at the same table. Before that, my younger brother developed the photos for Huey and Jean, and he went to deliver them to Huey and Jean. When he arrived at Jean's room, she was sleeping, and Jean's beauty and gentleness seemed to be attracting my younger brother. After Jean woke up, my younger brother explained the purpose, and Jean praised my younger brother for taking good photos. My younger brother told Jean that his dream is to become a photographer and invited her to be his model. After Jane heard it, she refused directly. After her younger brother left the room, a man who looked fierce and evil came here. He claimed to be Jane's brother. After completing a business transaction in Jane's room, he threatened her not to escape, otherwise he would sell her overseas. He dragged Jane to the seaside and boarded a ship. On the ship, he even made inappropriate physical contact with Jane, which caused dissatisfaction among the crew members who had been watching Jane. They almost gave him a lesson. Fortunately, the crew spared him because of Jane's face. This time, Hui went out for a dinner date with her boyfriend again. After dinner, her boyfriend suggested sleeping together and promised not to do anything. Hui naively believed him. Then, in the room, her boyfriend still wanted to have a deep conversation with Hui, but she insisted on waiting until after marriage. After her disappointed boyfriend left, fueled with enthusiasm, he found out about a hotel where they could be intimate. Coincidentally, she came to Huey's house, she faced the beautiful Jane but couldn't start, she felt sorry for Hui, so she didn't do anything to Jane, and left early. But Hui still sees her shoes and suspects that she may have been there. When Jane was blowing the wind at the beach, her brother came to her side and still begged Jane to be her mannequin. Jane still didn't agree, but my brother said he wanted to take a picture and send it to the magazine. Oh, it turns out to be serious art. Jane finally agreed. The two found an empty place by the seaside and started shooting. After the shoot, the younger brother requested Jane again, saying that he was the only virgin in the class and asked Jane to have a free transaction with him. Unable to resist the younger brother's persistence, Jane agreed again. The younger brother selected one of the photos taken and sent it to the magazine with a pseudonym. Hui decided to bring her boyfriend home to meet her parents, but she was afraid that her boyfriend would find out about what her family was doing, so she asked Jean not to come home for now. Her boyfriend received a warm welcome at home, while Jean was drinking depressively by the seaside. She didn't understand why, even though she had tried her best to please this family, they relied on her to make money while still looking down on her. During the family dinner, Jane came back drunk. Hui quickly explained to her boyfriend that Jane is her cousin who is staying with them. However, Jane unabashedly revealed her true identity. Hui slapped her and angrily left. Huey's mother also slapped her, asking how she could treat their family like this. Hui went to the seaside and said she didn't want her boyfriend to know what her family does. Her boyfriend comforted her and said it's okay, it's not your fault. It seems like you've known all along, you came here a few days ago. Sure enough, after Hui returned home, her mother said to her, although your boyfriend looks good, I find him somewhat familiar looking. Have you ever been to our house? Hui went to question her boyfriend angrily, and her boyfriend defended, I have been, but I really didn't do anything. Don't believe you, asked Jane. My boyfriend keeps emphasizing that he and Jane are innocent, but for Hui, it's a mistake for you to come. Under the pressure of the two, Jane lied vindicatively. Her boyfriend, who was supposed to take care of her business, even praised her good service. When Hui heard this, she became even angrier and left directly. In order to retaliate against Jean, when there were guests at home, Hui directly called the police to report her own home. The police came to the house and took Jean and her father to the police station for the night. Jin felt more and more wronged in the police station and started crying directly. Dad wiped off Jane's tears and put on his own coat for her. The remaining 3 people had dinner at home. Mom and younger brother were discussing which heartless person reported our family. However, Huey's expression clearly showed that she was too happy and thus betrayed herself. Our family relies on this for a living, and you want to cut off our source of income. So, Hui received a lesson. On this day, Jane was painting a portrait of her mother. Jane painted very well, and her mother looked very happy when she saw herself in the painting. Meanwhile, her younger brother was in the hospital, receiving treatment for a serious illness. The doctor said, "All right, go get a shot." As he looked up, he happened to see his father who had just finished getting a shot. The father and son faced each other, feeling quite awkward. Hui also quite likes Zhen, so she told her mother about the business dealings between her younger brother and Zhen. Mother immediately rushed to Zhen's room and insulted her. Unable to bear such injustice, Zhen directly packed her luggage and wanted to move out, but her mother wouldn't let her go. "If you leave, who will earn money for our family?" He grabbed Zhen's luggage again. Angry Zhen went for a walk by the seaside. She paid close attention to her crew and they took her on a boat for relaxation. Hui arrived in Zhen's room and put her luggage back. She saw her own portrait and a group photo of 2 people in Zhen's room. It seemed that she became curious about Zhen's life for the first time. Hui came to the seaside to find Zhen. She saw Zhen and the crew doing business on the beach, and she no longer felt the previous aversion. Instead, she felt a touch of beauty. She became even more curious about Zhen. On that day, when Zhen went out shopping, Hui kept following her. Zhen cleverly evaded Hui when she noticed being followed, and even started reverse tracking. She saw Hui go to the place where she had eaten before and imitated her singing. In the end, Hui also found Zhen and greeted her with a smile. Afterwards, the person claiming to be Zhen's brother came to look for her again. She saw the appearance of Zhen in the magazine and came to ask Zhen for money. Jane refused, and then started beating Jane. Hui came over to help Jane, but she unexpectedly wanted to attack Hui. Jane had no choice but to agree to her request. That night, Hui dreamt that Jane died on the beach. She woke up in shock and quickly found Jane, only to discover that Jane had committed suicide the night before. Dad hurriedly carried Jane to the hospital, luckily she was found in time and saved. After coming back, Hui told Jane not to do anything foolish anymore. Hui is increasingly able to understand Jane's life and situation. She forgave her boyfriend and went to a hotel with him, but they didn't go all the way in the end. They decide to leave that kind of thing until after they get married, and Hui goes to find the crew who has always been good to Jane and wants him to help Jane. The scoundrel who had been pestering Jane that day came again, and Dad called him out, and the two began to fight each other. However, Dad is obviously not the opponent of this scoundrel. He was unilaterally beaten up by the rascal. Just then, the crew appeared. He came up and was beaten up by the rascal in no time, with blood streaming from his head. The rascal, in a sorry state, ran away in a hurry. The relationship between Hui and Jin also became better and better. She even brought Jin to her own room for a visit. At this moment, a guest came to the house. Hui ran out and after the other party explained the purpose, she did not call for Zhen but instead walked into the customer's room herself. In the end, her younger brother grew up to be a true man. Hui no longer had bias against Zhen, and Zhen was no longer discriminated against in this household. Each of their faces is filled with joyful smiles. The story in this article is based on Jin Jidae's personal experience. He once said, "Many years ago, I lived in a very small hotel on the East Coast. There were many women of the night there, and the woman who guided me was certainly one of them. However, the next day I found out that the woman's daughter was a college student, and the mother earned money to support her daughter's education based on her reputation. In the original story, the mother's profession was lowly and depraved, but this kind of lowliness was meant to fulfill another kind of greatness. Setting aside the mother-daughter relationship, Jin Jidae believes that this is a kind of cultivation of the lower-class society towards the upper-class society, and the fact is indeed so. However, the story in this article removes the existence of the mother and replaces it with another girl of the same age as the daughter, Jane. She brings together 2 young girls who are completely unrelated and of disparate backgrounds. Hui initially looked down on Jane. But when she learns about the other side of Jane's life, she begins to slowly accept her, using sympathy to turn into appreciation, and finally makes the first transaction in her life with her selfish body. This article is very controversial, everyone has a different opinion on this article. Those who like it can watch the full version of the movie. I won't elaborate on it here. That's all for today's commentary. I am Xiaomei. Don't get lost, remember to follow, and see you next time.